Hello everybody, I hope you're having a good day. Well, one of the things you guys most seem to be interested about is the potential, along with the draft, and everyone loves the stuff about the upcoming players that we're going to draft in November, is the potential targets that Essendon could be looking at from other clubs. Now, I'm fully aware there'll be a lot more to discuss about this as we get into 2026. It's only November, of course, but I wanted to make a bit of a resource where we list all the players right now who are available, and it's almost like a resource video. You can go back and check who the players are. There's actually 28 restricted free agents. 28, that's all there is. I thought there'd be more than that. But I wanted to have a look at the restricted free agents, who they are, all of them, not just a few of them, but every single player that is available that could potentially be a target for our club and other clubs. That 28 doesn't include players at Essendon. It's just players from other clubs. So just before I do it, I thought I'd just quickly explain what the difference is between a restricted free agent and an unrestricted free agent. Because I think there's a bit of an assumption sometimes that everybody just knows what these terms are. You hear them in the paper and you hear them online, but you don't really know what they are. So a restricted free agent is a player that has spent 8 or 9 years at a club and is in the top 25% of wage earners. That means they're the best. Okay, so they're younger. They're usually around 25 or 26, because if you've spent 8 or 9 years, you'll be 25 or 26, and you're among the top 25% of wage earners at the club, so you're among the best players. The unrestricted free agents, who I'm not going to list here, tend to be not as desirable. The unrestricted free agents have been at a club either 8 or 9 years and are not in the top 25% of wage earners, for example, Sam Draper, or they've been at a club for 10 years plus, and if you've been at a club for 10 years plus, you become an unrestricted free agent. There are some very good unrestricted free agents, but if you've been at a club for 10 or more years, it generally means you're approaching 30 or in your 30s or even in your mid-30s. So you're perhaps not as desirable, and if you're not in the top 25% of wage earners, you also perhaps are not that desirable. So I wanted to go through the restricted free agents. And why are they called a restricted free agent? Well, a restricted free agent is called that because they're among the top 25 wage earners at their club, been at the club for 8 or 9 years. Another club, like us or another club, can make an offer for that player, and that particular club can accept the offer or match the offer, and that player is then obliged to stay at that club. So if we were to make an offer to, for argument's sake, Zac Bailey, and Brisbane matched the offer, then Bailey is obliged to then stay at Brisbane. He could request a trade, or he could just walk away and take his, take his luck in the draft. But he is obliged then to stay at Brisbane, as opposed to an unrestricted free agent that can go wherever you want. And if they don't match the offer, then that player can then come to the club that made the offer. So it's designed to keep the best players at their clubs. That's kind of why it's designed that way. So the restricted free agents tend to be the best players. So there's 28 of them that are not at the Bombers. So I wanted to go through them, and we'll have a bit of a resource, and we'll see if some of these are suitable to target. Most of these tend to get picked up and signed during the year, because these generally are the best of the best, or there are some players on here that are not necessarily the best of the best, but these are all players who are, for the most part, 25 or 26 years old, and they're in the top 25% of wage earners at their club. So Richmond has got Jack Ross, who's their 9th best player, who's 25 years old, pretty good player for them, and Tom Lynch, who's 33. The reason Tom Lynch is there, of course, is because he spent time at Gold Coast, so he spent, what would that be, 8 years at Richmond now. That's why, or it will be 8 years at Richmond after this season, so he qualifies. I don't think either of those players would be targets. Jack Ross is a pretty good player, but I don't think we'd be looking at them. I think Richmond would be looking to re-sign those players. Fremantle have got 2 players who are restricted free agents. Sam Swakowski, who is regarded as their 8th best player. He's 29 years old, and he's a pretty handy player, and I think he will be on some clubs' radar. I don't think he'd be on our radar. I think you would inquire about a player like that, but I think there are probably better options to target. Sam Sturt is the other one, who is a restricted free agent. He has spent most of the year injured. Bailey Williams from West Coast Ruckman. He is 25 years old. He's rated their 24th best player. I think there are better ruck options available, and we're going to get into some of those from some other clubs as I move through the players in this video, because there's one in particular that I thought was pretty interesting for Essendon, and we'll get into that, but I don't think Bailey Williams is someone that we should be looking at. Gold Coast have got 2. They've got Ben King, who is on Collingwood's radar. The Magpies will be looking very, very strongly at Ben King. Ben King is one of the best forwards in the competition, of course. 25 years old. We do have a lot of key forwards. We don't necessarily have any A-grade full forwards, but we do have a lot of full forwards. We hope Caddy can develop into that. I don't think King would probably suit our team, although, gee, if a player like that was willing to come to your club, you'd look at it because he's a really, really good player. But I think some other clubs that are in the lookout for a key forward in particular will be looking at him. Lachlan Weller is another one for the Gold Coast Suns. He's 29 years old and rated about their 28th best player. Probably not a target for us, I wouldn't imagine. Sydney have two players who are restricted free agents. Joel Amati, who is a bit of a hit and miss full forward, as we know. You might remember that game, was it last year or maybe the year before? I think it was the year before when they made the grand final. They kicked 9 goals or something at the Adelaide, I think it was at the Adelaide Oval. And but he can be a bit hit and miss. I don't think we really need him in the side. Justin McInerney is an interesting one. So Justin McInerney is rated Sydney's 7th best player. He's 25 years old, one of their best players, a pretty good wingman. Given a wingman half-back kind of player, given that we were in the market for a wingman and we got one with Braden Fiorini, I thought McInerney is the type of player that you would look at as a potential target. Look, most of these players that are at good clubs will probably stay with their clubs, but, you know, there's salary cap pressures and all these sort of things that come into this. So I would put that on the maybe list to look at. I think certain clubs, there will be a lot of clubs that will target him. He's a top 10 player at the club that he's at. So Justin McInerney, to me, is a definite watch and a definite look for Essendon and other clubs. Bailey Scott from North Melbourne is 25 years old, in the top 25% of wage earners. The problem when you get with some of these bottom clubs is that there's a minimum requirement that you have to spend on the salary cap. So some of these clubs that are not particularly chock full of talent, like Richmond and North Melbourne, have players like Bailey Scott, who's just a so-so player, who are in the top 25% of wage earners at their club. I wouldn't have thought we'd be looking at there. Carlton have got Sam Walsh and Nick Newman. Now, Nick Newman spent this year injured. He wasn't available. I don't think we'd be looking at players with a history of injury like that, although he's a pretty good player for them. Sam Walsh, of course, is a superstar, 25 years old, rated as their 3rd best player, and he will be a target, no doubt, for lots of clubs. Perhaps most clubs in the competition would be inquiring about that. I would suspect strongly Carlton would snap him up and sign him up. But Carlton are in a position kind of similar to us. If they don't have a good year next year, and they might not, they've obviously lost a lot of key players, and they've been pretty similar to us for a generation now. There might be players there that get kind of disenfranchised and might be looking for a new start. You might argue, well, why would he want to come to Essendon? Well, what if we have a good year next year? What if we show some potential? I doubt he would. For people from other clubs watching this, I'm not naive. I'm not suggesting all these players are going to come to Essendon. They're just players that are restricted free agents. And if they're restricted free agents, then you can make an offer to them and the other club has to match that offer, or they can come to you. So Sam Walsh is one of the best players. He's probably, I'd say, the 2nd best player behind Zac Butters of the players who are, potentially available as restricted free agents. Kieren Briggs. Now, this to me is an interesting one. I watched Kieren Briggs really towel up Vigo Vicentini in the match where GWS beat us a bit, around 1920, whenever it was. He's a pretty good player. He's actually rated this year, according to Champion Data, GWS's 5th best player. We've been told that Matt Rosa was saying that we're not really in the market for a ruckman. I can't imagine we wouldn't be looking at one, though. I mean, we've lost 2, really, with Draper going and Goldstein going. And we haven't got Nick Bryan for the first 4 or 5 rounds. So we're relying on, Blackiston and others, and Peter Wright down there, and Vigo. So I would have thought someone like a Kieren Briggs, who's 26 years old, one of the better ruckmen in the competition, would be someone that clubs would be looking at. And there's always that possibility of getting players out of the market, out of the Sydney market, if they want to come to Melbourne. So to me, Kieren Briggs, he hasn't been sort of linked to Essendon or anything like that, but I would think that we'd be looking at a player like that. I mean, why not? He's in the right age bracket. He's a good ruckman. We've lost 2 of them. I would be looking at him very, very closely. So to me, that's another watch, that one. Melbourne has 4. They have Bailey Fritsch, Cade Chandler, Stephen May, and Tom Sparrow. I would draw a line through Stephen May. At his age, he's 33 years old. Bailey Fritsch, same. He's 29 years old, but I don't really think we need anyone like that. Cade Chandler is the one. He's a really, really good player for them. He kicked 36 goals this year. rated as their 10th best player. He's a player they wouldn't want to lose. He's a very, very good player, 25 years old. And that's the thing about these restricted free agents. Assuming they were drafted when they were 18, and they're all at the same club that they were drafted with, and some aren't, like Stephen May, because he started at Gold Coast. But the ones who are at the same club they started with are only 25, 26 years old, so they've still got 6-7 years left. Cade Chandler would be a player I think most AFL clubs would be looking at and thinking that would be a pretty good get for them. So to me, Cade Chandler is a watch. Tom Sparrow is another one who I don't know a lot about whether he would, I haven't sort of analysed whether he would fit into our side or anything like that, but I think Cade Chandler would probably be the one of the Melbourne players, of that quartet of Melbourne players, he would be the one that I think most clubs outside Melbourne would be looking at and making an offer on him. I think he will get some offers unless Melbourne snap him up. Now, most of these players, well, not most, but I would suggest that probably half of these players, if not more, at some point will get signed up during the year by their existing club. But many don't. And we can, cross them off the list as the season goes on. But as it stands, these are the restricted free agent. Hawthorn has 2. They've got Jarman Impey, who's 30, and Ned Reeves, who's 27. Ned Reeves only played the one game, kind of a backup ruckman. Kind of surprised me when he came up as a restricted free agent. I wouldn't have thought he's in the top 25% of players in terms of payment, but there you go. I wouldn't have thought either of those players would be targets for us. There's always a bit of a market, though, to look at ruckmen that aren't getting a chance somewhere. I think if ruckmen that aren't getting a chance somewhere and are behind the main ruckman, they can often, when given a chance at a new club, kind of thrive. So he would probably be looking at options, not necessarily at Essendon, but somewhere else. I think Ned Reeves is certainly a watch for certain other clubs in the competition if he can't get into the senior side again. I don't think he'd be happy about playing just the one game. Brisbane, Noah Answorth, halfback player, 26 years old, pretty solid player. And of course, Zac Bailey. Essendon has been linked to Zac Bailey. He's Brisbane's 7th best player, according to Champion Data. Very good goal kicker. We saw him play a very good grand final. He could have kicked 8 or 9 goals in that grand final if he kicked accurately. And you would imagine he'd be signed up. But once again, he is available as a restricted free agent coming out of contract. And Brisbane are going to have a hard time paying these players. So if you can make someone an offer that they can't refuse, then they're going to have to at least consider it. And that's the thing. You put these offers out there and it holds these players off from signing. They'll probably end up signing, but if you can at least make them think about it, you put the offer out there. If it's something that Brisbane can't match, then the player has to decide what to do. So Bailey will be a player that will get an offer from Essendon, I think an official offer at some point during the year, because we have been linked to him and we will be ambitious in looking at players like this. I wouldn't imagine he'd leave, but you never know. Lachie Neale as well actually is a restricted free agent at the age of 32 because he spent time at Fremantle and he's coming up to his 8th or 9th season at Brisbane, but at his age, and he's not going to be leaving Brisbane. Let's just be realistic. The Western Bulldogs have Buku Khamis and Rhylee West. Both of these are interesting. They're both 25 years old. Buku Khamis is their 23rd best player. Rhylee West is their 9th best player, and Rhylee West kicked 39 goals. So, once again, Rhylee West will be on the radar of lots of clubs. I would imagine the Bulldogs would attempt to sign him up, but if you're after a 25-year-old that kicks 40 goals, then there would be other clubs looking for that. And I reckon a small forward to go alongside Kako would be very, very good. I've been on the radar about Doveston in the draft. Not many other people have been talking about him in terms of Essendon creators. I love the idea of small forwards. I think they get undervalued. Rhylee West is a very, very good player, and he will attract a lot of attention, and I'm sure he will attract offers from many, many clubs until he gets signed up. The Adelaide Crows have 3 players, Chase Jones, Jordan Butts, and Lachie Shoal. I wouldn't imagine any of those are quite good enough or in the market really to be moving. None of them are in the top 23 players at their club. The best is Lachie Shoal, who was rated Adelaide's 24th best player. Kind of surprised me. They're in the top 25% of wage earners, but there you have it. That's the way it is. And the last player that is a restricted free agent is, of course, Zac Butters. Won't go into too much detail. We all know everything about him. Lots of clubs will be making offers to him, including the before-mentioned Western Bulldogs, where he the club he barracked for as a young boy, and he's apparently a mad Bulldogs fan. And my money would be that he will probably end up at the Bulldogs. But nevertheless, you put an offer he can't refuse. Maybe the Bulldogs can't afford $1.6 million a year, and maybe the Bombers or some other club can afford that in their salary cap. So all this stuff will play out during the year. So that is it. They are the 28 players who are restricted free agents at as of now. Some will be signed up during the year and that number will dwindle, but as of now, it is 28 players, not including Essendon players, who potentially could be available to make offers on at during the 2026 season. I can do another video if you wanted on unrestricted free agents. They tend to be not as... There are some really good ones out there. They tend to be not as desirable because they're often in their 30s, have spent more than 10 years, or are not in the top 25% of wage earners at their clubs. So I didn't think it was really that appropriate to do a video about unrestricted free agents. But that is the 28 restricted free agents. So you can use this video as your resource. We can cross them off as we go through the year, and maybe we can attract one or two of those players. We'll see as the next 12 months progresses. I'm going to leave it there. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Have a great day, and as always, go Bombers.